Alright, this is Kerbal Space Program. Now, if you generally watch my YouTube channel for racing videos, this is to you a departure from the norm, but I do have a gaming video every once in a while, and when I haven't been at work or sleeping or at a racetrack or editing the racing video after, I've been wasting a lot of my time in this game because who knew that orbital mechanics would actually be addictive? And I'll show you what I mean in a second. I'll show you a new game. I just started this file and never used it. But first I'll show you some of the stuff I've been doing in here. This is basically it's a space simulator game. You can go over here and build like a space plane, or just a plane. Doesn't even go into space if you want. Or you can go over here and build a rocket. And then you go over here and you launch the rocket. And if you go over here, you can track all the rockets and things that you've already launched. And there is a demo for this, but it's very limited. I think you can only launch one thing at a time, whatever. I don't have the demo, so I don't know. But let me just show you. Very quickly, as you can see, here's a little map, and there's all sorts of stuff already around this planet. This isn't Earth. It's a planet called Kerbin. It's in a fictional solar system. With fictional planets, although a lot of them are made similar to planets in our system. So this is kind of your Mercury. This one is kind of your Venus. I don't know, it's a little different. And then obviously you have Kerbin, which is like Earth. And then you have Duna, which is like Mars. Jool is like Jupiter. But yeah, anyway. Let's go back down to Kerbin, and you'll also notice, aside from the moon you have orbiting over here, there's a second moon called Minmus. Anyway, but let's go into showing you some stuff. You can do little individual things like launch a single satellite. So I'll show you. I'll go to this satellite that I already launched and just have floating around, just chilling around the planet. Yeah, it does take a second to load in, especially when you're running recording software. But you can see, there you go, there's my little satellite. It's got the little probe body, some antennas and stuff, the rocket that I helped put it into orbit with, and some solar panels. And there it is, and I can even take control. You got your RCS, which is Reaction Control System. It's how basically you steer in space, per se. So let's say I want to aim these solar panels a little more at the sun, and then there you go. But yeah, so I got that satellite, and you can move around and other stuff. This little thing down here is actually a mod, and I'm hoping they add it to the game. This game's in beta, by the way. I probably should have mentioned that before. This game isn't finished. They're constantly adding new things. So that's the other interesting about it. But anyway, so this is actually a mod, so you can go and select anything you want and switch to it, which you have to go back out to that communications thing that I showed you before. But here with this, I can switch to here and show you the space station I put in orbit. And this should take even longer to load, and the frame rate might be laggy because this has a lot of parts and pieces, and the game does a lot of physics calculations. But it's not finished. But there's a space station, and I'm making these. These are full fuel tanks, and I'm kind of making it so I can have a rocket that's gonna go to a faraway planet, and I can actually rendezvous with this, hook up, get some fuel, and there's some little living quarters, but no one's in it yet. The only guys that are in it are these two guys, who were launched in this middle piece, which was the first piece of the station. And I got some solar panels, and I added other little solar panels around and stuff. And these are all these things here are docking ports, so I can dock new pieces to it. So all these this is a separate piece, this is a separate piece, this is a separate piece, this was a separate piece, and this was a separate piece. They're all separate pieces that I all launched separately and brought them together into this one thing that's now here. And it does take a lot of patience, and I'm not a very patient person, yet somehow I managed to do it, so if I can, anybody can do it. But anyway, let's go back to the Space Center. And I'm going to go to that new file. This just started file, and I have a couple other minor mods added to this too, but nothing major that like really changes up the game. But anyway, so you have your rocket builder here, and what you do is you have a bunch of things over here on the side to choose from, different cockpits. These are more for space planes. This one kind of is too. You could sort of make a shuttle, I guess. But then here's all your stuff that you want for rockets. You have these two command pods. 3 guys can go up in this one, 1 guy in this one, 2 can go in this one. You can use this to launch it as a rocket, but it's made more to make a lander out of it. And then these are probe bodies. These are just made so you can make an unmanned craft or a satellite or whatever, like I showed you before. So let's make a rocket. Let's just make something that goes up into orbit. So here we got our capsule. 3 guys are gonna go in there. Now, when you start building something, I mean, some people I'm sure like to go in a certain order on how they do stuff. Everyone has their own particular way they go about it. Usually the first thing I do when I make a capsule is I go over here, and there's different parachutes you have here, because eventually this capsule is going to have to land in the atmosphere again. So you want to go pick a parachute. Now some people they might take a parachute and they stick it on the top, but usually I like to leave the top open. So I take this parachute and I stick it on here. But now here's the other great thing about this builder is if I want to add all these parachutes around it, I'm going to have to do this and add them all one at a time. That's a pain in the ass. What you can do is go over here, and this here lets you snap something, so I can either like have a free, or I can set it to angles and it'll snap to specific spots like that. But you can set symmetry so it adds parts. So right here I want 3 of these parachutes, so I set the symmetry mode to 3. I'll pull this off again. Now see, it's adding 3 at a time. So now I put it where I want, and now I have 3 evenly spaced parachutes that are ready to deploy when I come back into the atmosphere. The reason I like to leave the top off is, you know how I was talking about the docking ports? Well, I like to add a docking port to the top, to the front of most of my rockets, so I can dock with space stations and all that other stuff, and transfer things and refuel or whatever. But if you want to put it on the top of the rocket, you actually want to put this one, which is shielded, and then once you get up into space, you can open that thing up, and it looks just like this one, but with a shield. Anyway, so the next thing we want to do is come over to here, and you want decouplers, because if you've ever seen a rocket or a space shuttle or any kind of launch video, then you know that rockets have stages that are released and drop back down to efficiently launch something in the air. Because if you just have something really huge and launch it into the air, it's going to be inefficient. You're going to have all that weight from the extra fuel tanks and parts that are now empty. So anyway, so we're just making a basic orbiter, so we're going to put this here so at the end this can decouple from everything and land back in the atmosphere on its own. Then underneath this we want to make our first stage, and this is going to be the stage where we're in orbit and we're just controlling. So it doesn't need to be too big, we're going to be in space already, we're not going to have to worry about the atmosphere or anything like that. So we add a smaller fuel tank. Actually, before the fuel tank, another thing you have are stability control things. This one just stops roll. These ones are more advanced, they're just 2 different sizes. This basically, if you press T and it turns it on, and it helps hold the rocket straight. And depending on how well built your rocket is, results may vary on how well that actually keeps it stable. But yeah, so okay, so we got that, and we'll put the fuel tank on it. And oh yes, that's another thing. The RCS that I mentioned that helps, little mini thrusters that help control you into space, they actually unrealistically just give you, the capsules have a little bit of their own torque and they just kind of move with, I guess, magic, if you want to say. So something this small, you'd actually be able to do that. You wouldn't even need to add RCS, but I like to be more realistic. So I'm going to add some RCS. So I'll add a RCS fuel tank and then the regular fuel tank. And at this point I want to look at where the center of mass is just to get an idea where I might want to put the ports. Oh, might be a good idea. I want to put the motor, the rocket engine on there. So I'll put this smaller engine on because we're just in space. And now we'll add the RCS. So we go over to the control section, and you have these linear ports that just face out in one direction, and you have these four-way ports. And if you've ever seen a picture of like the lunar missions, or if you've watched Apollo 13, then you've probably seen these. I'm going to make sure the symmetry is on 4. I'm going to add some of these. I don't care too much about the placement of these. You want to try to make them decent, but with a rocket this small, it's very easy to control. It's very manageable. And in some situations, I'll like pair these up. So I'll put these underneath, and then I'll do the same. I'll put these like on top above it, but we don't need to do that in this case. I think we'll be good with these. And then that's our first stage. Now you notice the staging has been laying out over here. Now when you're launching the rocket, each time you press spacebar, it goes to the next stage. So like this stage activates that engine. The next stage decouples the decoupler from the capsule, and then the last stage deploys the parachutes. So now I want to add another decoupler. And where is it? I do this all the time. You'd think I'd be better at it since I play the game way too much. And now I added the next stage, which is the decoupler. Now I liked when I released this decoupler, I just wanted to activate this engine, so you can actually drag that and group it with that engine. So when you press space, both of these actions will go at the same time. And then we'll add our bottom stage, which you don't have to be, when you first start playing this game, you don't have to be fancy, but I'm going to get a little fancy. I'm not going to explain this to you. There are plenty of videos on it if you want to look up asparagus staging. So I'm just going to skip over this part and come back when it's finished being built. Alright, so we're back, and I set up the rest of these the lower stages here with the big rockets. This is a big engine called the mainsail. This gives you a ton of power, and if you're wondering why I got these little fuel tanks on the bottom of the red tank, aside from the fact that it gives me a little extra fuel, there's a glitch right now where if you attach these big engines directly to this big red fuel tank, it causes these engines to overheat very quickly. And it's really weird, but it's been a glitch for a while. Just if you decide to play the game, so if you wonder why your engines are overheating so fast, that might be the problem. But these little aerodynamic nose cones, well, little big aerodynamic nose cones on the rocket. And aside from the fact that I have what's called the asparagus staging, which basically means only 2 of these are going to drop at once, and I have these yellow fuel lines here, and I don't know, maybe I'll make another video explaining it, but there's plenty of videos already online. I mean, even this video, there's a lot of videos about this game. But here we go. So we have our rocket, and that's pretty much it. Only thing I want to do is I want to add some structure to hold the rocket up before it actually launches. And I actually want those to go at the same time the motors fire. So let's add some of these supports. Alright, so we got the supports in. Oh yes, one more thing I forgot that is very, very important. Struts, or as I've heard some people call it, space tape. This rocket will be very wobbly, the lower stages there, so what I want to do is I want to add some of these struts that make it stronger. Just attach it from the middle rocket to the big rocket, and maybe in a few other areas. And I have the symmetry on 4 right now, so that it's duplicating this action all the way around. And the struts don't always have to look pretty. They just have to hold everything together. Unless you want your rocket to be extra well balanced. But this is Kerbal Space Program. That's not about being balanced. It's about just making it go. This might be alright. Yeah, let me just lower that down a little bit so it's not flapping in the breeze before we start. And we want to you go up here. This is probably something you want to do before you finish the rocket, just in case something goes horribly wrong and the game crashes. You want to name your rocket, so we'll just call it. I called this same file. I don't even know what I call it. USK, I think. United States of Kerbin, I think that was supposed to be. My other save file is UKKR. Anyway, so USK Basic Orbiter. Just call it that. Save it. You can go in here and you can load. It's got a bunch of stock rockets and stuff in there, but who wants to use a stock rocket when you can build your own? I mean, that's the whole fun, is building your own and watching it explode all over the launch pad. Anyway, you can also just start a new one there if you want, but we're going to go launch. And we're just going to try to achieve orbit. Now, if you try this game for the first time and you have no idea how orbital mechanics works, kind of like me, then you'll probably try to launch this thing, maybe not straight up, because if you're like me, you've also seen some videos of launches, and you know that they do start to curve, so you gotta start to curve at some point, but that's what I did, and it failed miserably. And there's a reason why. Because no matter how high you go, eventually you're gonna run out of fuel, and you're just not gonna be out of the gravity of this planet, so you're gonna come falling back down. So what you need to do is, after you get to a certain height, you actually have to start thrusting to the side, and basically, to get into orbit, to simplify it, you're falling as fast as you're going around the planet, so you never actually fall. So here's the rocket. Let's use shift to throttle up. I'm not going to go full throttle. I probably don't need it. Again, I'm not going to go into details about this asparagus staging, but basically all 5 of these rocket motors are going to fire at once, and they're going to all suck fuel out of these 2 tanks. So these 2 tanks will run out before anything else. And then I'll hit the button, and these 2 tanks will drop away. And then it'll suck all the fuel out of the next 2 tanks, and I'll hit the button, and those will drop away, and then this rocket tank will still be full of fuel and have plenty of oomph to get me up into space. In fact, this thing's probably overkill. I could probably orbit the moon with this if I wanted to. But anyway, let's just show you how to get into orbit. So we get throttled up. 3, 2, 1. And there we go. We want to put the stability on so it stays straight. Introduce a little bit of a wobble. And I'm going to throttle down a little bit because you don't want to go too fast in the atmosphere. It actually wastes fuel. As you can see down here, you got your status on how full the fuel tanks are. And as you can see, 2 tanks are dropping faster than the rest. Now, hopefully I didn't screw up the staging and this is actually going to do what it's supposed to, and that I don't drop the wrong tanks. But that's also the fun, is failing miserably off the launch pad. So ready, and we're about to run out, and boom. So we dropped those 2 tanks, look at that. Now we got to add a little more throttle because we don't have enough thrust. So we're going to keep climbing straight up for the moment. When we get up to about 10,000 meters, we're going to start to bank over. I'm going to throttle down a little bit to save a little fuel. We're about at 10,000. Okay, so I'm going to throttle back up. And I'm going to shut off the stability control and start to bank over towards the 90-degree mark on that little nav ball. Now, when you first start playing this game, you're probably not going to know what the nav ball means, but eventually you'll start learning it. It's got what's called an artificial horizon. I'm not going to go explaining the details. This is just to show the basics of this game. So I got that tilted to 90 degrees. I'm going to leave it there, and we're going to add a little more thrust. And these 2 tanks are going to be running out soon. And I'm going to get ready to drop them. Ready, right now. So we dropped those 2 tanks. Goodbye. And now we're just flying up. Now I'm going to go to the orbit map, and we're going to see what our path is. Now, okay, you want to get up past 70,000 meters. So we just passed 70,000 meters. So we know that's how high we're going to get. Now, I want the orbit to be a little higher. Let's So we're going to let it climb some more to about 100,000 meters, and I'm going to hit X, and it kills the throttle instantly. You can throttle down with control, but X will just instantly shut it off. Alright, and now we're going to float for a while. So we're just going to start floating up. And in the meantime, while we're floating up, we're going to add what's called a maneuver node. Now this is, you want the ship to do something, you grab one of these nodes. This one that I'm pulling is called prograde, which is the direction that you're already moving. And as I see, you drag it out, and it starts to tell you what the orbit will be is. So we pull it out, and we got a fairly stable orbit. A little off, we can correct it later, but we got up there in an orbit, and as we can see, this tells us that we're 1 minute and 33 seconds away from this node. So we actually want to get moving towards that. So I'm going to shut off stability control, turn the RCS on, and we're going to turn over towards that node. And you want to burn half and half, so that's 46 seconds. So I want to burn about 23 seconds, with T-minus 23 seconds on the node. So I have not much time left, so I want to try to align it with this node. Turn on SAS to keep us stable. I just hit the mic, I'm really sorry. I hope that didn't blow your ears out. Alright. So when we get down to T-minus 23, we're going to throttle up, and as long as this thing will start to go down, as long as we're pointing in the right direction. This is how much speed we need to build up, 1188 meters per second. So here we go, T-minus 23, throttle up, and we got more than enough fuel to get in orbit. I mean, we haven't even gone to the last stage there yet. See your guys over here. Cheb's always happy, he's crazy, but Bill and Bob Kerman aren't doing so good. They're freaking out. So we're going to go back to the orbit map, and we're going to look at it and see orbit is stretching. It's stretching, it's stretching, it's stretching. And we're actually, I'm going to shut stability control off, we're falling off of our node. Oh well, it's just about done, and boom. So they got a little ahead, but that's okay. Usually you're going to have to fix your orbit, and that's pretty good. Now, of course, I've been playing this game for a while, so I got it lined up pretty close to the equator, and the orbit's fairly stable. Don't be discouraged if you fail a lot, because that's half the fun of this game, is failing miserably. And, yeah, that's the basics of this game, and then you can fly wherever you want, fly to the moon and stuff. You gotta work with, there's plenty of videos online to show you what to do if you don't know, but you gotta work with orbital mechanics. So you can't just say like, oh, I'm gonna fly to the moon and point at the moon. You gotta actually, I mean, maneuver nodes help. You gotta actually extend your orbits out like that, and see, like right here we have an encounter with the moon. But this video isn't about getting to the moon, so let's cancel that out. Let's just get this thing back into the planet. Now, I never even needed this final stage, so I'm going to start by removing that stage and then just throttling away from it a little bit. Now this thing will just float around the planet forever. As if you play this game a lot and you get a lot of stuff, you'll notice you have a lot of debris floating around. Usually, as you get better at building rockets and stuff, you'll find ways of making sure most of your debris drops back into the planet or goes really far away and not in your way. Now, to land, you'd think, oh, I just want to thrust straight into the planet, right? That's what they do in all the movies, right? But no, this isn't what you want to do. So let's just do that for a second. Let's thrust towards the planet. Let's build up a ton of speed. Now let's look at the orbit map. Nothing's really changed. The only thing that's changed is one side of the orbit has actually grown. So as you can see, we're just throwing the orbit off. What you want to do is you actually want to thrust in the opposite direction you're heading. So right now we're heading in about this direction. That's prograde. See that little yellow node there? That's your prograde node. So we want to burn retrograde, which is this other yellow node. So we just want to lock on there and burn. Fire up the thrusters. We start burning. Again, these two are freaking out, but this guy's on crack. And as you can see, the orbit's going down, and we're now going into the planet. So we're gonna shut the thrusters off, and they have effects. They've added effects to show plasma around the capsule, but they haven't actually added the ability to burn your craft up, so you can have the steepest angle you want at the highest speed and you won't burn up in the planet yet. But like I said, the game's still in beta, they're still working on it. Alright, so now that we know that we're going to land back on the planet safely, and there's our debris, by the way, flying around up there. Oh yeah, and just to show you before I do that, you can open the shield here. And this docking camera, that's a mod, but it's a really good mod, it's cool. Anyway, so let's close that shield back up, and we're gonna hit space again and separate. Now this is on the same trajectory that you are right now, so that will crash into the planet. And I told you about this, the capsules in this game do have this magical force where they don't need any little thrusters to move. So as you can see, I can spin this thing around, even though I shouldn't. I think in reality, the capsules did have their own RCS thrusters built in, but there's no RCS fuel supply or anything. I can move this infinitely. It also doesn't have the stability control though, so I can turn that off and on all I want. And actually, this one does. I don't know if they added that or if it was always like that and I'm just stupid. I don't know. Either way, let's just shut it off. We're getting ready to enter the planet. Our altitude is dropping. We look at our little orbital map. And that's the other important thing about this game is time acceleration. You can accelerate time because you're going to be traveling to planets that are far away that literally would take months to get to in-game. But with time acceleration, you can speed this process up. The further away you are from a planet, the more you can accelerate time. So we're getting down. We're now dropping below below orbital velocity as I drink some water. As my voice seems to be going out. Alright. So here we are. We are now getting close to entering the atmosphere again. And once you enter the atmosphere, you'll notice the aerodynamics will straighten this thing out, and eventually the plasma will start forming around the capsule. And as always, you have the little status, you have the facial expressions of your three Kerbals riding along in the capsule. Now, if I was to separate the rocket from this capsule before I slowed it down to fall out of orbit, then it would literally be stuck in orbit forever. Now granted, you could just hit escape and end flight, but the fun way to do it is try to rescue your guys with another ship, which is where the docking port would come in handy. They are planning to implement a career mode with this game, but right now there's just the sandbox mode where you do whatever you want. But if you notice in the editor where you're building rockets, there's like a price tag on all the parts, and that still hasn't come into play yet because the career mode's not done. But anyway, so as you can see, this thing's straightening itself out in the atmosphere. It's starting to pick up drag, and as you can see, you got the three layers of the atmosphere. Each time the color changes here, it gets up here on the bar, it gets thicker. So as that bar gets thicker, all of a sudden, over in the blue, you'll notice the plasma stats. And I think we're going to be landing on land, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, we're going to land on land. It's going to be a big lake nearby, though. But we're landing on land. Let's go back to our staging mode. Probably should have mentioned when I was still in space that you can get out of the ship and walk around, and you have a little RCS pack, and you can fly around your ship and do all sorts of fun stuff with your little guy in space, but there's plenty of other things in this game I could show you too that aren't in this video. I don't even know how long this has been running for. I should have checked the time before I started recording this. These videos are usually long. If you don't want to see a good video, some good videos from Kerbal Space Program, I would recommend Scott Manley, especially if you want him to start going on about the real-life physics and relations behind it. And there's some other stuff. There's Two Rocket Guys. They got a good series where they're building a moon base, which is actually really hard to do because you gotta land big parts and pieces on the moon. Here we go. We get the plasma starting there. Now this looks cool. I'm glad I'm on the dark side of the planet for this, because this is perfect. When you're on the dark side, you get the full effect. You got the whole underside glowing away. You got the plasma coming off. Let's zoom in. Let's get a closer look on that. Actually, let's take a look inside and see. Can we see anything? No, you can't see anything inside. There we go. And as you notice the whole time, your speed is slowing down significantly. And now we are coming to the thickest part of the atmosphere. We're getting sufficiently slowed. We're going to be able to deploy our chutes in a minute. In fact, I think we do that right now. So I press space and nothing. Oh, there was an extra stage there for some reason with nothing in it. There we go. Chutes have deployed. And we're slowing down for a safe landing. And you can land this thing in water too, it'll float. Let's take a look at our interior, one of our interior views again. You can see the parachutes out there. You can actually control this in here, the throttle and stuff, but obviously we're not hooked up to rockets anymore. And the chutes have now fully deployed, as you can see out the window. And we're slowly cruising down. Floating down at 7.3 meters per second, which is slow enough to land safely. The total flight time is 18 minutes and 9 seconds, but that includes our time acceleration, so it's shorter than that, but I'm guessing that means I'm probably at a good half-hour mark, at least for this video. Almost down, we're floating down, we're gonna touch down in a minute. Gonna be on the side of a hill. And boom, we land safely, the parachutes disappear. And let's have one of the guys come out. Jeb's coming out. Back on his home planet. And this is a little RCS pack, but you can't really go anywhere with it on the planet. And you get little lights on it too. But anyway, that's it for this video. I don't know if I'm going to make any other KSP videos, especially since I'll have plenty of racing video to work on. But you never know. I make gaming videos from time to time, and this video is actually was pretty easy to make. I thought I was going to have trouble running fraps with this, but I just set it to record to my second hard drive, and I have Audacity running to record my headset mic, and everything seems to be going smoothly, so maybe I will do more KSP videos. I don't know. I think my voice is annoying, so I don't know if you guys want to watch more, so whatever, we'll see. I might do it anyway, even if only 5 people watch it. Who knows?